What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel and another video. Today we're going to be picking up where my P0300 misfire diagnosis video left off, and that's working through a pile of parts and things we're going to change in order to try and mitigate that misfire that I have going on, and try to make it a little bit better. Ultimately, I believe that I'm at a point where the cylinder head needs to be pulled off and some things need to be done, but we're going to try to do some things to mitigate and then also sort of upgrade some other things while I'm in there. So, and clean up some things too. So what you're going to see me do, I'm going to go through installing new Corksport intake manifold. While I've got everything apart, I'm going to clean my valves, clean the runners, and go through that process. And then I'm also going to paint the valve cover and that new intake manifold. I'll go through some of the setup of the vacuum line. I'll go through how I'm going to set up the EGR to not have a code, how I'm going to set up the VTCS to not have a code, and then quite a few other things while I'm in there. Also adding my front mount intercooler, and I've got some new headlights I'm going to be installing as well. So a lot of things, a lot of work coming up in this video. So let's get started. do for now. Hood, guys. If it falls on your head, it hurts. In case anybody's wondering what I was doing there, you got your 4 big holes that hold your crash bar on the front of this car, and this is an aftermarket crash bar right here. And on the backs of each of those holes from the factory, it's just a nut welded on. And on this one over here, for me, that nut broke off when I took off the first bolt. So what you can do, if it happens to be one of the ones on the inside, which some aftermarket crash bars only use 2 on each side, like that one, you can actually put a wrench through the hole and hold a nut on the back of it. And that's exactly what I was doing. So, like this. Goes here. Should be what I did for this Corksport. Comes right off. Plug. We're still working. It's always more cool. Next, we want to get our turbo inlet out of the way. But now that we're in here, we got a good look at this is the EGR tube, this is the actual EGR valve, this is the water outlet. My Damond Motorsports water outlet will replace this, and we will get rid of this in the system. And what I will do is this coolant line will run right to the new water outlet. That's for the turbo itself. And I'm going to rig up a EGR valve and simply plumb it into the brake booster line so it has vac. And then hopefully that plugged in will keep me from having a code. But we will see how that works out. So just as some space saving here, let's get this hose out of the way. Body, a little bit of coolant inside of it, leaking out. Not even that many miles, but that's where the EGR comes in. You can see the tube here leading from here back to over there to the valve. That's where the EGR comes in. You can see all the crap that comes out of there. Like it winds up going back into your intake, back into your engine. held to the intake manifold with one bolt. And down lower, it's got some plastic clip that holds it in place. And it actually just pulls out of the block, out of the oil pan rather. Alright, now we got our map sensor. Totally loose now, just sitting there. Now the only thing connected really is our vac one down on the bottom. For me it's for catch cam, but on OE would be connected straight to your crankcase breather. That off with a pair of pliers real quick. Take a minute. BTCS actually usually plugged in. There we go. Alright, now we got our intake manifold off and we got our valve cover off. We can see up close the condition of our valves as far as carbon buildup goes. And after I go ahead and prep that intake manifold and the my valve cover to paint and go ahead and get some primer on them, I'll probably come back over to this. We'll go ahead and put some air back down in the cylinder and we'll see if we can't see like right there in front of us where it's leaking out. But just for right now, to take a look real quick with a pen light here. Trying to get the best video I can here. This is kind of tough, but guys, this right here is only 25,000 miles. That's all I put on this engine. If you guys can see that valve right there, man, that is caked. Well, especially towards the top. I'm sure that there's people out there who've seen worse. I'm sure there's worse, but for such low mileage, this is really crazy to me. Sorry, it's kind of dark there. See if I can't get the light back in there so we can see it again. This is number 3. This is my one that's leaking right here. I'm not sure which one of the 2 that it is. I just know it's coming out of 3, which each one has 2. So you can see that ring of crud right there on the valve. And then around the bottom of the valve, where it actually seals, you can see junk there as well. So that's what it looks like. All right, guys, this is one of the other issues I'm in here for, which is my AC compressor mounting. And as you can see right here, it's a mess. So here's your 4 holes that hold the AC compressor on. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see 3 out of 4 of mine now have inserts in them. And that's because you can see these yellow marks back when I took it to the machine shop. That's where they marked, hey, these have snapped off bolts. And this is a super common thing for this engine, for this block. And people make it worse by not running an under tray, allowing the elements to get to this, which will rust these bolts out, and then they'll snap off when you try to take off the AC compressor. In fact, my extra block I have laying around has one snapped off in it right there too, as you can see the lower left. So over time, I've tried different solutions for this. They've all been challenging, but I like the Easy Lock brand of threaded inserts because they have this little ridged attachment where they attach to the tool that you use to install them here. And so that's convenient for once you've drilled and tapped your hole, but that's the solution for putting the AC compressor back on. All right, guys, now that we got our valve cover off, we can really kind of recreate our little experiment on the leak down testing to see where the compression is leaking. Remember, the compression leaking is what's causing our misfire code. So we know that it's leaking out of the intake valve before because we felt the air coming out of the intake manifold. So to do sort of the same thing we did last time, I've got my TDC whistle in here. I'm gonna get under the car. I'm gonna turn over the engine a few times. Make sure nothing's gonna get caught in my cams as things are turning over, or the chain. All this crap away from the engine. I don't want anything to fall in there and get caught in the chain while I'm actually moving it. We'll turn it over a few times. There we go. So we're in compression stroke. And we'll increase the pressure. And you can feel it leaking right there, actually. You can feel it. You can hear that. So the hope will be now that we'll get in there and we'll clean the tops of the valves. We'll clean around the edge the best that we can. And if we're lucky, that will help that valve seal as it comes up. But as I said at the start of the beginning of the video, the best fix at this point would be to pull the cylinder head, have everything cleaned, and have the valves lapped again. And then, for my case, probably to go ahead and increase the springs to a aftermarket spring to a better spring to pull the valve up even harder. So, all right, let's get to work. All right, we got everything pretty well blocked off, and I was originally going to do walnut blasting, but I don't think mine is that bad to do that, especially now that I get in here and start spraying some of this B12 Chemtool in here. A lot of it is coming off. Brush. All right, guys, so that's after our first pass right there. And you can see the chunks. They're still left around the edge. And those sort of chunks are what can cause the compression to leak out. Trying to get a camera angle for you guys. Very difficult. There we go. effective. Just those couple little blasts took a bunch of crap off there. And hopefully we can just clean it up. The Chemtool and brake cleaner, and we'll be done with this one. Alright guys, so it's not perfect, but it's definitely a dramatic improvement. Let's see right there. Focus, there we go. Much cleaner. So after cleaning the valves, I went ahead and did the leak down again, just to check and see what it looked like at that point. And it's not really much better, so that's kind of a bummer. I'm hoping that, you know, in the moment of combustion, it will hold enough to perform decently, maybe even enough to not cause the misfire and give me the code. But what really needs to happen right now is I need to pull the cylinder head, and the valves need to be lapped and all checked for straightness. So, I mean, I don't want to do that right now, especially without knowing where I can go for a machine shop, because the machine shop I use closed, and machine shops are hard to find these days. If anyone knows a decent machine shop in the Columbus, Ohio area, or if you want to go down to Dayton, Springfield, even Cincinnati, I'd probably do that as well. If anybody knows, please leave it in the comments. But for right now, I believe I'm just going to put it back together. I think that it will run better, especially with the new intake manifold and the valves being all nice and clean. So I'm going to move on to my next step, which is going to be working on my EGR hack. So to delete the EGR. Got our freshly painted new intake manifold here with our ugly old throttle body on it. Map sensor installed. We're going to go ahead and put the actual gaskets. Fifth one. Hopefully that's just a spare. Okay guys, as we can see here on our intake manifold, our new one from Corksport, it is not set up to run the EGR tube. It is also not set up to run VTCS up on top. So obviously for those two things, we're going to have to make some changes in order to not run those things. I'd also like to avoid having check engine lights. So for me, I'm going to find a way to tuck these two things and this into the engine bay and keep them plugged in. And my understanding is that will help me avoid the VTCS light, check engine light. And then over here, we have the EGR set up. And for me, I don't just want to avoid the check engine light. I also just want to get rid of the EGR, because EGR puts nasty crap back into your intake manifold, which is the reason I just spent 4 hours cleaning those intake valves. So there are a couple ways, different ways to do that. Of course, you can just buy the EGR delete kit from somebody like Damond Motorsports. This is basically the plate that comes with that kit. You also get a block off for the EGR, which you don't need if you're running something like the Corksport manifold. But this is your water outlet. This is your EGR. The EGR normally attaches to the back of it, like this. But in my case, I'm going to be replacing the water outlet with the Damond Motorsports water outlet, which is this nice new piece right here. And you can see all the water outputs. I'm probably going to go ahead and plug the one that went to the throttle body. I'm going to get rid of that one. And you've got your turbo, and you've got your other lines, and then your main radiator line. So, and then over here on the EGR, my plan for this to avoid the check engine light is going to be, I've got this plate right here, and as you can see, I've taken the gasket and I have traced out the two spots here where the holes are, that actually where the EGR works here. And I'm going to be drilling this hole out and this hole out right here to about a 7/16 size. I'm going to use a barbed NPT fitting, which is a NTP3 that is very, very weird. I could talk for a whole video about that by itself. It is not the same as normal thread, but anyway, this is a 1/4 by 18 NPT tap. And so I'll drill this hole out, and then I'll use a tap here, and then I'll just drill this hole out and leave it open. And so my plan is to run from here, from this barb, into a vacuum line that will eventually go on to here, this connection point right here, because that connection point will connect. It'll go in between. I'll tee it in between off of the front here, off of this one right here. And so I'll tee this hose right here into that, just using a simple nylon tee, which I've got right here. So that hose is around the right size to do that. Hopefully that should give me enough vacuum to pull a constant vacuum on this EGR valve, and then I'll also plug it right back in. And then the combination of those two things should avoid a check engine light for me, and I'll just have to find a space to tuck this into the engine bay. Oh, and to hold the plate on, I'll just be using the bolts, the OE bolts, with some nuts that I had laying around. So that's the plan. Let's get started by, first I need to drill and tap that hole in that plate. Well, Teflon tape's not doing much good, but that should be good enough, I believe. No, I don't even know what that top plug is. I think that's coolant, but I should probably block it anyway. All right, guys, while we're in here, we're gonna go ahead and swap our fuel pressure relief valve for a brand new one. I suspect mine wasn't retaining as much pressure as it's supposed to, according to some logs I've taken. It's not terrible, like not functional, but just not as good as a brand new one would be. So I thought it would be a good thing to change while I'm in here. This green guy right here is off the high pressure fuel pump. Engine's been off for days at this point, so shouldn't have too much fuel in here, but I'm going to go ahead and get a towel under here in case I lose a little fuel. Again, it's the green one right here. This is your main feed into the rail. This is your relief valve right here. See if we can't pull this off. Not make it too big of a mess. There we go. And this is a deep well. So what you're going to need, a
17 millimeter. And with all this stuff out of the way already, EGR tube and everything, this is a much easier job to do versus trying to do this if you have everything like normal still. So we're just going to pop that loose and thread it out the rest of the way. There's our old one. Here's our brand new one. This looks like it has some kind of crush washer in there, so that makes me concerned whether or not it's supposed to have one. Well, according to the wisest source of all truth on the planet, the internet, yeah, you do have to have a washer on there, and you got to retain the one from the old one, unless you bought one, which I did not. So I saved that washer, and I've got it on my new valve. I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Should be good to go. Alright guys, as we can see, we got our freshly painted valve cover and intake manifold back on the car. Wires, coolant plugs all hooked back up, cam sensor, variable valve timing actuator hooked up. Now we have the challenge of got some random objects where I'm going to try to stick in the engine bay somewhere without them falling, running into things, or causing more problems. And so number one, that's going to be our little EGR hack setup here. It's going to need to find a happy place to live somewhere in this neighborhood so I can plumb that air right into the brake booster. So I'm going to set it down there for a second. Number two, with this little guy here. This is usually the little actuator for the VTCS tumblers. And so that's just going to need to be plugged in right here. And then I'm going to have to find a spot probably to tuck this. That should be probably the easiest one of all of them. And then number three, which I'm not really sure if I have to have this thing, but this would normally be connected to push this guy, which is the actual vacuum actuator. So I don't know if that's going to have to be connected to the black box or not. I'm going to find out. But the black box itself will need to be connected to this plug here. I'm gonna have to find some kind of a place to hide that. So if this causes a problem still, I may try to connect this vacuum line and then stash this guy somewhere as well. So, because otherwise that may be interpreted as open vacuum right there. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, now we've got our crash bar back on, our core support back on, wires and hoses and everything else. Turbo inlet back on. Now it's time to start messing with my my front mount setup. So I'm gonna have to get creative with mounting of the core, and then got some a bit of steel bar for that.
Probably gonna try to cut down, drill some holes in and make some mounts. Hopefully that'll work out. Really? Just a little further out. That would have been perfect. All right, so there's our end product, mounting the core. Not perfect, but it'll work. I cut 2 pieces of steel I had up here, and then drilled some holes. Did the best to just measure, eyeballed it out where the holes would be, and then to keep it from bouncing off of the core back here, I actually had a little plastic piece that I used a nut zert to hold up with on the inside, and on the outside I took one of the caps that was right here, to rubber to protect it on the back, and so that keeps it all pretty stable and in place. Shouldn't go anywhere. All right, so I got my intercooler piping all mocked up here. Basically, like, had to kind of install or put it in place to understand like where I needed everything to sit and how it was going to work. This is still really tight here against my dipstick. And down in here, it's good to take note that, you know, this is really coming in contact with that right there. And then around down here, I didn't realize that the Mishimoto core has a 3-inch outlet instead of a 2.5. And so I actually ordered some big monster size couplers that are 3-inch on one side, 2.5 on the other. So I can connect those places, and I can probably chop off a little bit here if I need to. But now that I've got all this done, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pull the intercooler core off one last time, and I'm gonna pull this piping out of here again, and I'm gonna cover some of these AC lines and other things with at least like a piece of hose or something, in order, and some zip ties, in order so they don't rub on them and then destroy the pipe. And then the other thing I've got left to do is I need to come up with a solution to connect my my bypass valve back into my inlet right there. So I have some other hose laying around. Just happen to have some old heater core hose, and I'm probably going to go ahead and try to cut to fit that. So, all right, so I've got it all clamped up and attached. Really ready to run as far as the inner core is concerned. I had to trim quite a bit of this off in order to get this to line up. That's like the aftermath of how much I trimmed off. Same for this side over here. Some of the things on the piping that was a challenge to make sure that I got right was to make sure that angle coming off the throttle body for this piece of pipe here is good enough to where your shift weight's not gonna smack into your pipe as your shifters work. And so then back over on this side, one of the things I was really concerned about was this pipe having contact with the AC lines. And so for this pipe, for this AC line up here on top, I wrapped it with this hose here that I just cut open. And down there on the bottom, I did the same thing. And this is the worst one down here on the bottom. This lower line comes in almost direct contact with that pipe. So I've got foam and then this rubber line over top of it. So as it moves around and shifts, it won't wear a hole through the pipe or through the line and have a freon everywhere. Or R134, R134, whatever it is. So that's where we are so far. Well, guys, I got her back together and just got her running and took her for a test drive. And unfortunately, yeah, the misfire is still there. It's not as prevalent, and it is still only when I'm idling, which is kind of what I expected. After seeing that valve, I kind of knew this was probably what was going to happen. So, yeah, 100%. The head needs to come off this engine, and it needs a valve job. The valves need to be lapped and made to seal again. And I think when I would go to do something like that, I'd also probably want to go ahead and upgrade the valve springs. So I think that long term, because of other things going on with this car, I'm actually gonna be looking for another shell, another car with a blown up engine, but a much better body, because this car has some other issues with rust, which I'm gonna be posting a video soon about what I'm doing to combat that issue for the short term. So, but for now, you know, just to recap, the new Corksport intake manifold, running great with no codes or issues from that. My EGR hack, that worked just fine. Don't have an EGR code. And as far as the VTCS, one thing I will show you, I did get the code from that since I turned the car on. And one thing I'll show you that's kind of funny that I did to like hack to get that to stop. I actually plugged this this little guy in, the plunger that like usually detects the state of the flappers, and I used this clamp to smash it down so it would get the signal that it was plugged in and it was actually closed. So, well, actually, that's the position that this smash down button right here would be in if the flappers were open. So if that's constantly out, then the system thinks that it's stuck closed. So that's the code that I got. But either way, although my misfire is still there, I'm just going to drive the car with it like that for a while, and you know, hopefully it doesn't turn into serious misfires or drivability type problems. Like if it does, I'll just have to stop driving this car until I can do something to swap the body and pull the head off and everything else. But at least if anything, the engine bay will look pretty good, and so will the front of the car, you know, while I'm misfiring. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. You know, drop me a like if you found any of the content here useful. Please, I would also appreciate anyone who isn't currently subscribed to go ahead and subscribe to my channel that's watching. So, but thanks, and we'll see you guys in the next one.